And
Okay, good.
welcome everybody that's getting online right now to the March 7th virtual session for the Chicago Power Apps and Flow Users Group. You've got your co-hosts, co-chairs, Craig Jenke and Mark Vogt, with a couple of guest speakers, Mark Zerr, Mark Zerr, online today, and a few other people rolling on. We've got a couple of dozen people that were registered for the class and only less than 10 that are online right now. So we'll wait a couple minutes, but we are recording this session right now. So you guys can do a little bit of chatter and talking and stuff. Feel free. Just know that it's being recorded.
Ralph, so tell us your social security number so everybody has it.
No, I was about to say, if anyone's on witness protection, now is the time to put up their avatar.
Yeah. Could ask about spring breaks. Who's going someplace fun in the next couple of weeks? Nobody. I'm going to Dominican Republic. Me and my wife, 29th wedding anniversary, April 10th.
Wow, Punta Cana?
Punta Cana, yes.
Did I call it or did I call it?
Yes, did good.
Okay, now Ralph, name another city in the Dominican Republic.
Name another one.
Watch out! That's my specialty. Santo Domingo is the main capital of the Dominican Republic.
I know nothing about it.
I know all these things because my family is from Caribbean. Yeah.
No way. Ralph, is that true or are you pulling my leg?
I'm not pulling my leg. My mom is actually from the island of Curacao. I have relatives in Aruba, Curacao, and a bunch of the Netherlands Antilles, including, unfortunately, some trapped in Venezuela. But hey, what are you going to do?
What were you thinking coming to Chicago? Are you out of your mind?
No, she came to Chicago. I didn't. I was born here, so it wasn't exactly a choice.
God, we're looking forward to Punta Cana for the first time. We're big Jamaica Negril people because my wife is from West Africa. We just like to
love it. You will love it.
Nice.
But I don't have any Spanish. Is that going to be a big concern?
No, they understand you.
You should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like the whole east side of the island is all just an all-inclusive.
Yeah, they'll understand you.
Oz. Yeah.
Do you have dollars? They'll understand you.
I don't know.
I never
make it to Orlando, but that's about as far south as I get.
Yeah. My wife was in when they heard that the standard staple of every meal in Dominican Republic is plantains. She said, "Okay, I'm in." That's it. That's all she needed. Plantains are standard fare in Cameroon too. Not even rice, but plantains, yams.
My mom's specialty.
Yeah. So she's looking forward to it. So am I.
I thought you're flan. Why is yours flan?
Oh, so then another one of my mom's specialty, but the plantain is from when my mom grew up. She learned the flan skill later, and that flan skill is now a family recipe. Did you try it last time? Did you guys, Greg? Did you get to try it?
No, I didn't make it to the event that you were at.
That's right. That's right.
No, but it's like butterscotch Jello from heaven.
Well.
Oh, did you bring it to
Caramel,
the Sharepoint Fest?
I
right?
brought it to the Sharepoint Fest, right? So.
Yes, he was hawking it to anybody that would take it.
I helped some MVPs help me eventually.
Yeah. So there's your trick if you want to meet some MVPs and you're not already an MVP. Bring flan to a meeting.
Hey, whatever works.
Bring the flan, they will come. Let's wait about 2 more minutes. We'll get started, okay?
I got the SharePoint socks from Brian N. from ShareGate. He gave me SharePoint socks. What else did I get? Well, I got tips and advice from a few people, but that's not the same as the SharePoint socks.
Yeah.
I did get a pair of the SharePoint socks. I got a hat from ShareGate, actually. I didn't get the socks from ShareGate. The winter hat. Yeah,
I just
Nintex had little guys looking things that.
That's because you didn't have a flan.
Yeah. I got socks from somebody else. Sky Sync. They were giving away socks. I got some little USB connector thing from Nintex that you plug it into your side. It's got like 4 outlets, but it looks like a guy, so like a stick figure guy. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what Emtech likes to give around. Glass cleaning cloths that double as a pair of like a glass pocket, so to speak, and then one of those little adapters, standard USB-A on one side, and then USB micro, USB mini, the new, what is it, USB-C is the new one that looks symmetric all the way around. Those are darn handy.
Ralph,
there I
that's
see
a
you.
fancy picture in the background.
Yeah, it looks like a what is it, a Matador?
There's Jonathan Weaver.
A couple more people coming on. We'll wait. Ralph, you're talking, but I'm not hearing you.
Jonathan Weaver and Ralph are both on mute.
Right. I'm in my remote layer right now, and then yes, that is the Matador.
The Matador.
Goes back a while. That was a little record player I got from the alley back there. Somebody didn't like it, but it works.
Is that legitimate?
It's legitimate. Actually, it's a
not a CD player. It's a phonograph.
It's a phonograph. It plays records. It plays 45s and 33s
Vinyl.
and even 78s. And I haven't got the 78 no more.
You'd like some of my collection then.
You almost look like Tiny Tim with the hat.
I have some of those. I have some of those almost 3/4 of an inch thick platters that are actually from Edison. They're some of the original recordings, late 1800s, early 1900s.
I had a college mishap and with records, so there's only so many of them left.
Oh, that's
Years
David Booth.
ago. You know. Oh well, what you gonna do? All right,
Jonathan's
we almost there. We got a bunch of people
Sharon's behind him.
Right, we got a lot of people here listening to old guys talk. So
let's get started. See who sits on. I'm gonna move this. I'm going to move MS Teams out of the way so I can see everything else. Got to do a little shuffling, so I'm going to be looking away from the screen now. Give me one moment.
That's okay.
And here we are. Welcome to the March 7th Chicago PowerApps and Flow Users Group. Introductions-wise, I think we just mentioned I'm Mark Vogt. We got Craig Jenke. We got Mark Zerr. We've got Ralph Rivas all on. As some of our regular posters and co-chairs. We got a couple of slides coming up talking about PowerApps Flow and News, basically your news, weather, and sports related to the PowerApps world. We'll also talk briefly about upcoming events. Mark Zerr is going to dive right in then with a PowerApps related demo, and I will follow close on his heels with yet another PowerApps and Flow demo. As time permits, we're going to go into questions, otherwise known as BYOP, bring your own problem. And then we'll talk a little bit at the very end, some kind of a conclusion, and talk about next month. So, welcome everybody. I'm Mark Vogt. Mark Zerr is on the phone. Who else is on the line today? Who have we got? I see Dave. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dave.
Yeah, sure. I work for a company based out of Omaha, Nebraska. I kind of manage their technology projects. I do some mobile development on Android. I kind of spearheaded our migration from on-prem to Azure, and I also do some web development with Ruby on Rails and JavaScript. So,
nice mix. Dave, you got a last name?
McCullough.
McCullough, you're in Omaha calling in, or you're here in the Chicago?
I'm in the Chicagoland. I'm in Island Lake. I work for a company based out of Omaha.
Okay, that's what I heard earlier. All right, thanks. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Actually, I saw one person drop off. Mark Zerr, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're just coming on today.
Hi, I'm here in Indianapolis, actually on the north east side, Noblesville, if you know the Indianapolis area, one of the suburbs. I work for a company called New Sunshine, Health and Beauty, SPFs and whatnot. I've been with them for about a year and a half. I've been in the Microsoft world for quite some time, but that's sort of my history there.
Cool enough. Thanks, Mark. And Craig, tell everybody just a little bit about yourself before we launch.
Craig Jenke, I kind of founded this group. I get the legwork running on it. And Mark has been with me every step of the way now. So Mark's now going to be a co-founder, whether he likes it or not. Mark Vogt. Mark Zerr can be if he wants to. I really don't care. The more the merrier, right? So
yeah, it actually works that way.
If because we're going to be doing them all virtual, we're going to have some that are both. So occasionally if I can find a location to have a physical location, and we'll still do it virtually as well. So I work for Concurrency. It is we're basically a Microsoft consulting company. We do the entire Microsoft stack. We play in other areas, but that's our primary focus. So we do everything from, the BI and the data analytics to product and collaboration stuff like Office 365 and SharePoint, all that good stuff. I also have been doing SharePoint related user groups probably for about the last 6-7 years. And for the last 6 years, starting in 2013, we started hosting SharePoint Saturday Chicago suburbs out in Addison, Illinois at the DeVry. We'll talk about that later, but that's coming up in May, so May 4th.
Yeah, we'll see a blurb.
Occasionally I speak at SharePoint user groups. I did SharePoint Fest. I try to get out as much as possible.
Sounds good. All right, I think we covered everybody that's on. Oh, Jonathan Weaver just jumped on. Jonathan, welcome to the session. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Jonathan, I got you on mute. It looks like is that something I did or you did? Nope, looks like you.
You could skip to Ralph. Ralph didn't tell us about himself.
Ralph!
Oh, geez,
Last
what
but
didn't
not
you learn
least-
in the first 5 minutes? You're just like, you've already social engineered me. You figured out my password and all my dates that I have in my system.
Ralph, don't call me late for Flan Rivas.
Yes. So May the 4th be with you. That's what I'm looking forward to because I am originally a SharePoint guy, I guess. Actually, I'm originally a Microsoft guy, an Excel guy, and of course, SharePoint was the natural extension of things somewhere down the line. And what else is a natural extension? All this other stuff, the PowerApps stuff, everything happening in Office 365. It's all the lovely extension to everything that we've learned is all here. I am with a consulting group also, but our focus, even though we've done quite a bit of the things similar to concurrency, where lately though we're focused on cloud enterprise apps, pretty much on the higher plane, not the higher as in better, more like higher as in where it's like that's the bits we're working on, not and where they happen to be located, not anything in particular about them in this case. But I'm here because, as they say, if you don't know the basics, you end up reinventing the wheel. And I hope people remember that when they see this stuff next time a developer says, I can do that, and say, hey, I did it, and I did it in PowerApps.
Yeah, we did it in PowerApps. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Jonathan, are you online yet that you can talk and tell us a little bit about yourself? Jonathan? Bueller? Okay, nobody got that. I'm going to continue. Let's look at our. I can
tell you, Jonathan's out of Kansas City. He runs a SharePoint user group out of there. He also runs the SharePoint Saturday out of Kansas City.
Hi, Jonathan's here.
There he is.
Jonathan, welcome to the show. And we got Ed Gallagher, too.
Hey there.
We're getting feedback out of AWS. Proceed.
Yeah, let's proceed. All right, diving into the slides next, a little bit about PowerApps and Flow news. You can view PowerApps weekly release information at aka.microsoft. That's their version of the short URLs. Cool. PA weekly release notes. There's some information goings on in the composing and reusing rich components and controls in the initial instance or incarnation of PowerApps, the Canvas apps. There's a couple of links that you can check. This slide deck will be made available on LinkedIn or up on Meetup, Craig?
Sure.
So we'll make it available. There's also a new Flow of the Week link available on flow.microsoft.com. That actually raises a question. In this world called Power Platform, where we've got Power BI, we've got Power Apps, why did they not call this Power Flow? Can anybody
I do not know, but I made that point to somebody yesterday.
I'm going to tell you that probably you don't want to put anything in front of the word flow because that has other connotations. I will not go any further than that, but I do know that was asked before. And basically some people came out on the diversity land and said, do not call it something flow. It's like, okay. And Microsoft probably got that message.
Wow. Well, all right. Never made any sense to me. But there's also, we want to remind you guys that there's a Power Platform community, powerusers.microsoft.com. Go look up that kind of a power thing. Next slide, upcoming events. Looking around in the area, all the way from sea to shining sea.
Oh, you know what? You must have grabbed it because I had another slide in there, but that's okay.
Craig, do you want to talk to that
No, I just had a slide with the latest updates that came out on Flow that actually I just got an email on today. So I'll throw that on the deck when we get there. But it was, yeah, I can talk a little bit about it as I pull it up. February features for Flow. So custom response options for approvals, post richer messages in Microsoft Teams, advanced condition builder, and 6 new connectors, Acumatica, Ally, Microsoft Graph Security, Plum Sale Help Desk, TextSync, and Zoa DB. I added that slide, but you must have grabbed it right before I did it.
Just before you updated, yeah. I can actually show people a workflow I was working on today that illustrates or demonstrates the use of the new sophisticated condition action. It not saved, but boy, did it improve one of the flows I was working on for an upcoming conference. I was really, really pleased with how it can merge Boolean logic in with all of the different conditions inside one single little action box. You're going to see that. I'll just show it briefly, even though it's not a part of today's demo. All right, moving along, because I know we both got things to do that are going to take up the rest of the hour. We've got a couple of upcoming events. Early April 8th and 10th, actually 8th, 9th, and 10th inclusive, the Power Platform World Tour. This kickoff tour is coming to Chicago. Tickets are something like $499 a piece. Go do a Google search on Power Platform World Tour. You'll be able to find it. A couple of us are already guest speakers. Mark Zerr is guest speaking. I'm going to be guest speaking there and in Washington, D.C. It looks to be actually a really fun get-together, something that's going to be something that we're all going to look forward to again and again multiple times during the year. Sharepoint Saturday, Chicago Suburbs is coming May 4th. That's Saturday. It's under SPS events. And again, you can do a Google search on it, find it, get yourself registered so that they can continue doing the planning tour. There's usually hundreds of people that attend that one-day Saturday event. So you still get your weekend back, and nobody has ever regretted going that day. They end up seeing lots of hands-on demonstrations, talks, things like that. It's a fantastic free. Craig, it's still free, right?
Well, we do it's free if you don't want to eat, but if you want to eat, we do a $20 VIP fee.
Yeah.
Because we got tired of people not showing and trying to figure out how much food they're to order. So
yeah.
if we charge you $20 and give you a ticket, we get like 90% show rate, which is pretty good. For the free tickets, it's like somewhere between 45 and 65%. So it was making it hard to judge just how much food to order.
All right, sounds good. And last but not least, June 10th and 11th coming up. No doubt you guys people attending today have already been getting emails pounded at you about the upcoming Microsoft Business Applications Summit. You can look at the link there and follow up on it to see if you want to. That's something that you want to attend. Craig, I don't remember where this one is.
Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yeah, Atlanta.
That's what it is. Okay. So that's what's on the radar coming up in the next 2 months. Just wanted to let you know. And I've got a presentation that's coming up. Craig put me first, but really we're going to let Mark Zerr take over. Mark, it's 5:48. You got the next 20 minutes. I think you're already a host, so you can take over the screen. Feel free.
All right, let me go ahead and jump in here. I appreciate the opportunity. As Mark said here, I'm going to be presenting at the Chicago Power Platform there coming up in April. Going to do a very brief presentation of what I'm going to be presenting. Try to give you something sunny and warm. As I said, I work for New Sunshine, so we have lots of pictures of people on the beach and waves and whatnot. But the core of what I wanted to present today was really sort of where do you start? I mean, I think we've all been kind of in that world. We're all IT professionals here, and you hear PowerApps, and I came back and I was excited and telling people about what I was hearing about PowerApps, and a lot of times I get deer in the headlight looks and whatnot. So a little bit of what I'll be presenting here is kind of where did I kind of land on and what I thought was successes for me getting PowerApps, kind of people excited about it and thinking about how we could be more efficient within New Sunshine using PowerApps. So I'm gonna talk a little bit here again about the canvas and where I started, some of the things and where that got me excited about the apps that I have built so far. We'll talk a little bit about the data and where we're storing it at and starting points there. Again, a little more in depth. Most of you guys in technical know here, but we'll talk about SharePoint list pages and again, the various data sources that we can connect to our PowerApps and utilize when building apps. And I don't normally get to connectors here per se, but we may delve in that a little bit there. I'm gonna switch over here to my app screen here. So I guess taking a step back there, one of the things that I felt like when I came back and was searching for where do I start with PowerApps and how do I get people excited about PowerApps was obviously finding something that people would get excited or feel like was a process that would be made more efficient. And the first people that you go and torture is your own people. So I tortured the people in my own IT department here. One of our regular requests was to build something that would handle new computers, new requests, things like that. This may look very familiar. This was again a demo app that I built before I made a prototype here for putting in requests for new computer equipment. One of the things that I think was important here was again being able to show people how quickly we could do this. And again, most of you already know PowerApps. If you're already an Office 365 shop, again, it's not like there's any inherent cost here to building the apps itself. So you've already got licenses there and can start developing within it there. One of the reasons I had picked this particular app was again because it allowed me to leverage the concept of the workflows. Not going to spend time really delving into that part of this in the presentation here, but I will take a moment here again to show here that within the app here, some of the concepts that I implied in here. I did leverage our Office 365 users for the approval process there. Again, being able to, within your PowerApps, bring in that data to capture who is sending it, who's making that request, and also, again, getting that data there available, thinking of the future when we added a flow to a PowerApp and being able to know who to route that to. And again, that's just built there. Within here, you might notice I have two other data sources. I created a quick and dirty SharePoint list to actually store the results and capture those results after they put in the order and actually have the devices that were made available. I used an Excel spreadsheet here to attach to bring in some pros and cons to using the Excel spreadsheet. Obviously, it's got to be refreshed in some form or fashion or updated to keep it from being static. But for purpose of, again, creating a mock environment, it's a quick and easy way, obviously, to get that data accessible and to give a prototype to users.
Hey, Mark, does that spreadsheet have to be stored up in the cloud somewhere, or is it actually locally sourced on your laptop?
So
what do you got today? Is this one up in like a OneDrive?
So this is up in a OneDrive, and again, there's, I guess, the power of again, Microsoft behind the scenes where you want to keep that at, but this is up in a OneDrive.
Okay.
Which is a good point there. Again, the pluses and minuses. I could have brought that in as a SharePoint list, but there are some drawbacks. If you've tried to bring in a list there, you've got to, again, I'll admit some of the things I don't know behind the scenes, but I know that you can't just bring that in without using an IE browser. Edge doesn't like it when you bring that in. And again, you're still going to have to deal with the refreshing part of it. Where do you want to update that data from? The focus of building this app, as I said, was to make it, to give a prototype and to give ideas here. So a lot of times I like just building the app so that I can prototype it, and then if they like it, then I will look then to enhance it further down the road there. Behind the scenes here, again, I can show where that list was built over here on the Sharepoint side of things, and the employee orders here, and it's capturing my, actually that's the wrong file. Wrong table. Probably we'll get to that one.
No worries.
There we go here. So again, I don't know if this is anything rocket science here. Again, one of the things that's great about it is that it's very easy to build. This didn't take very long to construct a SharePoint list here to capture the data. Where I kind of wanted to highlight here, I talked about adding in the office here. You can see that it pulled in who requested it, and it can see who, you can see that it also pulled from my Office 365 data who was going to send to, and if they received, they approved it or didn't approve it here. And again, I know, Mark, you're going to show flow here a little bit later here, so you're not kind of getting the cool part of this to seeing the actual process for going through the flow, but it's kind of neat to see the email process and to see the actual flow with that and capturing that side of the data. And again, this probably, I don't know how long that app took me to build, but it was probably less than a half a day to construct. So it's pretty neat how quickly you can take and utilize this technology.
I think that's what everybody resonates with everybody, is that PowerApps together with the rest of that Power Platform that lets you do that rapid prototyping, not necessarily as a developer, but as a Power user. So you get to leverage all the Power users in your organization to start rapid prototyping what the user interface, what the user experience is supposed to be in the app. And if it lives through version 1 to version 2, even to version 3, and now you need to, it's really taken a foothold in your organization and it needs to somehow scale up. Well, now there's a business reason for why you would actually bother recreating that in, say, a true mobile app IDE of some kind. And there'd be all of the functionality has been vetted out on what you need and how you need it to actually get implemented. You and I are very much on the same page. Please continue.
There. So you say here that once I created this, I'm gonna jump back here. Once I will close that out here. And again, I'll kind of show here at the top there, just to play again here, isn't super complicated here. Drop down here, they could pick one of anything here. Again, it knows I'm logged in, so it's always going to go to my boss for approval here and status here. I can attach a reason, or if there's something in there that I want, or a comment here. I like keeping things simple, easy, clean, not overly complicated. Again here, if you want to be able to do this actually from your phone, then obviously you wouldn't want to have too much on there to keep it nice and neat. But and just like that, I've added another request in there. I know, yes, don't show me that again here in my demo here. Again, behind the scenes there, I have to have a place for people to come in here and you can see here that I didn't see it actually come up here, but I should get a request tell me that it was successfully submitted there behind the scenes. So there's my actual entry screen there. There again, here's just show me the information about the device there, the details about it. So it didn't make it overly complicated here in the design here. Like I say here, my point here was really to sell people on how quick and easy that I could put something together. And again, people love it when you tell them it doesn't cost anything. There's not a big dollar amount here. It's really the effort here. I shouldn't say that's never a cost here. Again, if you're just building the app, again, we get into flow, we gets into a whole discussion of transactional costs and things like that. But again, depending on what you're doing with the Power App there. So don't know where we're down the road if I should talk about cost today, but again, I just want to show how easy it was to build something here. One of the other things here, we're also a Dynamics AX shop 2012 right now, looking to go to D365. So if you know, again, D365 and Office 365 kind of hand in hand here. So we're also getting hit by the, hey, Power BI, Power Apps, think about those because of where the D365 is headed with the common data model. And there's some inherent benefits to us down the road, which I would cover more at the Chicago, but I won't go into a lot of detail here because I just kind of want to talk a little bit today more about the Power Apps itself and some of the designs I've done. So after I had built this sort of basic one, but showed the concept that, hey, we can leverage Office 365, we can get approval processes in there, and we've got that already, and isn't going to cost anything. People started taking note and started getting some requests in to do some additional things. And one of the first requests I had come up was one of the things we allow employees to do is make actually employee purchases. And today, in the world there, they would go out actually to our, of all places, they went to our ADP website, yes, where you do payroll at, and they would download this fabulous spreadsheet here that had all our products in it. And you would go through and put in what you wanted to order and submit this via email, save a copy of it and just email it to somebody. You'd have to already beforehand put in they'd have your credit card information on file. You're just confirming up there what it is, but it was all very manual in the process. So this is an obvious one that jumped out to me that I've got HR who has to go out and actually update this on the ADP website. The user has to come out and get it. They have to fill it. They have to email it to finance. Finance then has to take this and actually turn it into a manual order in the process there. So
sounds like low-hanging fruit.
This was a pretty easy sell to convince people that, hey, we all looked at how we can make this a better process here. So this was again, for the purpose of demoing today in 20 minutes here, I'm going to show you the demo that I built for them here. This is pretty basic, rudimentary on the cart here though, but I started out here again with not collection. I really just needed two things to kind of get the prototype built up here. I needed a place to store the orders, and I needed to have the products come in here. The end goal here was already utilize some of the resources we already had. We had a tool that was already in place that we had built that could upload the orders if I knew I got it to the right format. So again, the end result here was to be able to take these orders and then be able to make a call and upload those without having to have manual entry. And also here, the end result here, which again I'm not going to show today, but I will demo in Chicago, actual integration back to our AX side, so it's pulling real live data. But for the purpose of the prototype here, I brought the data in to again a SharePoint list here. So again here a basic shopping cart here, though I say that within there I knew that we had the ability to bring in pictures, so I wanted to kind of represent that over here, that we'd be able to show what that bottle of lotion was or whatever you were selecting there. We will do a little demo here. So the concept here, trying to wow them a little bit there, but again, this brings in from yes.
What was your target like output? Your target device, was it a phone or was it a tablet?
So our goal here was, we knew some people may just be ordering from their computer screen, but the target really was a phone.
Ah, okay.
Again here, I made the screens a little wider, so it does end up going more landscape sideways, at least on the app, from the app perspective. But I took advantage of the real estate that most people today usually have a pretty good size screen.
Yeah.
On our landscape there. Again, probably been easier maybe to let them type in a code there, but I was trying to be cutesy here. A nice little slide bar here to adjust the quantities. Here, again, here, this isn't picture perfect, but again, as I adjust the quantities, it's subtooling here and adding it to my cart there. Let me add a couple things in here, and we will.
I like that.
So again here, so one of the things I think is kind of neat here, you don't see here, this actually, if I go back and look at, I can see I've got 2 items in there and it's got an order total here. Again, I'm going to pull that information in from Office 365 to capture their name rather than typing, but for the purpose of the prototype here, I just made it simple and let them type in the person who was entering here. I'm actually storing this data attached to the gallery page there, and so if I were to exit out of here, I can show you how that's being captured on the SharePoint side there. So again, if I go to view my collection here, I can see in my collection there, while I'm ordering that's being stored back here in the collection until I place that order. So again, if I were to leave the screen, I would lose that, but it's just storing that for me behind the scenes there and capturing that data.
This is actually a really nice demo of all of the different mechanisms that are available to you for building PowerApps too. Not just files and storage devices, but those different internal constructs, like you said, like collections and stuff. Cool.
And so, one of the things here to encourage people here, like you say, I'm going to go ahead. I'll go here. So I'm going to place the order there. Is this going to, and we'll go there. And let me jump back out of here. So if I were to come back and to take a look at my, this time I'll go to the actual. But it wrote a record back. It's going to write my record back here to my employee. It's not really exciting to look back here at this here. But one of the things I guess I would encourage you to do as you're building the apps, there's so many choices of things you could do here. There's my cart screen. When you're adding things here, again, there's just a lot of choices here. There's no right or wrong. I thought the cart was cute, but I could have picked any icon. Once I dropped the icon on there, then it was simply a matter of over here just telling it how I wanted to navigate, what I wanted to do here. So in this case here, I navigated to the cart screen. Over here is what I'm telling it to do here. When I'm building things over here, if you want it to, like on this screen here, or maybe even the detail, I'm gonna jump over this from here. Like if I want to keep things the same here, and here's my employee price. There. So let me do here.
Couple minutes.
What I'm missing here, I was going to show here that you can copy these if you want to keep things the same size. So again, I think it's helpful to make sure you're not adjusting sizes or things. You could copy text boxes or keep duplicating them across. Again, I made a choice over here of how I wanted to. You mentioned about the screen here, and I can't get back to the number of columns. I am missing where I set that at, and I apologize. But you can set how wide you want the number of columns or how the space here. So again, I can adjust the columns to how many columns I want to put on here, and so forth. So I don't want to, so I'm running a little bit tight here on time here, but one I say is this shows the power of PowerApps here and what you can do with a little bit of time and effort here. Again, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on a prototype. I wanted to demo and get sending out to users for them to review and to get their feedback. So any, it's kind of really quick there, but any questions or?
Any questions, any comments from the attendees? Ed, Jonathan, Nick, Naveen, or is it Carla Naveen?
I think you said we have a couple MVPs on here. A couple of places I like looking at. I met Laura. I go take night. Like Laura Rogers has a power hour. She does a lot of neat things like listening into that. Sometimes I get some good ideas or hints or tips there. Big fan of the Ignite conference. It's more than just Power Apps, but again, being a Dynamics AX shop, I can cover Power Apps, Power BI, Flow, D365, a lot of great concepts, a lot of good things there. And it's one of those conferences I know that you can actually convert your Premier hours in and get a free pass if you're a Premier person. Talk to your TAM and they can get you set up. I think it's like 10 hours or 11 hours of you can convert into a pass. So sort of a cost savings there.
Cool. All right, Mark, thanks very much. I'm going to take over the screen. We've got about 15 minutes left for the last little bit of today's session.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Nicely done. You guys let me know if you can see the shared screen now. And I'm going to throw a slide up there.
Yep, got it.
What I'll be doing in the next couple of minutes, if you take a step back and ask yourself, well, what's a user group all about? For a lot of us, it's all about trying to sift through all of the info glut to find information about the news and events, what's happening in this particular technology, what are the technological breakthroughs, what are the actual practical business solution breakthroughs. Certainly what you're seeing as attendees today is that we're going to be doing a lot of showcasing of full-on business solutions like Mark Zerr just presented to you guys. Then we're also going to spend time looking at what I'll call practical PowerBook or PowerApps cookbook recipes. These are little pieces of functionality that anybody might want to try to add on to their particular application. As they learn all of these little cookbook skills, you'll be able to assemble all of them into different kinds of solutions. So the one that I wanted to show you tonight, one of the first things I attempted to try to do was actually how to get a smartphone image up into a SharePoint picture library. It seems deceptively simple, but you find out right away it doesn't work exactly the way you expect it to. The ingredients in this particular recipe are you need an Office 365 subscription. Specifically, you're going to be making a SharePoint website, and inside there, you're going to have a picture library. You're going to need access to Microsoft Flow because we'll see in just a few moments, it becomes critical that Microsoft Flow actually intercepts the image before it gets into the SharePoint picture library. And it's through Microsoft Flow that we perform a particular kind of a transformation on that information. Lastly, we need PowerApps to simply act as our interface to the phone itself and the camera that's on the phone. And I shouldn't say lastly, we need some kind of a phone. In this case, I'm using a smartphone that's Galaxy-based, but this entire solution absolutely will work on an iPhone as well or any other kind of a regular phone. So I'm going to end that slideshow, minimize it. What I'm going to try to cover in the next couple of minutes at a high level was meant to be hands-on. We can't do as much hands-on as I would like, but I did already blog this for my past company, and you can go to this particular URL, and we'll post it up on the meetup afterwards, that everything about doing this entire module, this cookbook skill, has already been blogged extensively on this particular blog page. So if you go and do a Google search on uploading camera pictures to SharePoint, throw in Mark Vogt on there, you'll be able to find this article. Let's step through what actually got done. It all starts off with, initially we need a place to store these images. Where are we going to store them? Up inside SharePoint Online. Here's inside Site Contents, I've got something called Poll Images. So here's an actual list. It's a picture library. a regular standard SharePoint picture library with a couple of additional fields that are on there, but that's not really what I want to cover in tonight's little demo. I want to ask the question, how do you get this image up here? So what I'll do in the first couple of minutes is actually a tour of this application. We're going to run it, we're going to use it, and I might have to actually turn on my lights here so that you guys can actually see me running. And here's this application. All of these metadata fields are being captured up inside SharePoint in the picture library. Metadata along with the content that is the image itself. So that I've got a couple of buttons down here that already activate a control specifically for the camera. So that what we're going to do, I'll give you a thumbs up right here. We're going to capture the image, and we see that it's stored over here, not as a live camera image, but as an actual image. And then when I click on upload, we'll see that there's actually a couple of motion pictures here, meaning that something actually was happening, that this Power App was actually invoking a Microsoft flow. So that when we go looking for this image back inside this picture library, there we see that it showed up. So now we know this entire solution works. The next question is, how did it actually work? Let's go underneath first and look at the Power App side of it to see what the pieces are, and then see what the flow part of it is. If I go back into the Power App Studio for this, the dev environment for this particular application, and actually stop playing it, but instead go in here and actually go into edit mode, and you'll see, just as an aside, you'll see that I tend to do a lot of versioning right inside. I do save as. I don't rely only on the versioning that's built inside PowerApps itself, because I tend to use the version to give myself some idea of how far along I am. We know that 0.81 is a beta, and it's about 81% complete. I'm working on some other ones that are beta, they're version 0, and I put them at about 31% complete. So I moved through that, but I also set recovery points that in case anything happens with these web-based editors, I know I can guarantee to go back to that particular instance. Version 30 recovery point represents the last known working version before I branched my code off, so to speak, and started doing something experimental that I might regret. If it's broken, I come back to the recovery point. If that sounds a lot like the way that you can do branching and finally merging inside Git, you've got exactly the right idea of what I'm trying to accomplish there. Back into the editor for version 0.81. Again, like with Mark Zerr's application, you've got a 3-screen SharePoint app tying into SharePoint as a background source. You have a browse screen that lets you browse a lot of items, a detail screen that lets you see all of the fields for one particular record, but where I did all of the work was on the edit page. And all that I did was go into this edit page, and I'll let it allow access to my camera. So even in design mode now, you can see me moving and working on this. What I did was take the edit form itself and push it up a little bit just to give myself a little bit of working room to be able to add this additional functionality. The way this is going to work is there's going to be one record in the library, but there might be multiple images tied to it. And every time I hit the upload, I'm actually setting up another image and another image and another image. It's that part that I want to focus on for the next 5 more minutes. To perform this, to get this functionality working, let me just shift this over a little bit. I'm going to move this up and out of the way. We're only going to concentrate on these fields here. I have a simple button, and I'll drop down and show you what it actually does, and we'll come back to it in a second. The capture button is actually going to go and get an image from the live camera image control. That's this guy. If we go and look at what this one's called, we'll see in the upper right-hand corner, camera live image. It's a camera control. It's a live image. So it's not the image that's going to go up into SharePoint. It's a live moving image. And when I go and click on capture, what I'm going to do is actually set an internal variable that I call var captured image from the photo property at that moment in time of the cam live image control. So that now I've got an image, but it's a base64 encoded image. And when I go to, I also set this thing called a camera or a captured image file name down in this control here. And when you're doing a lot of clicking over and over again, this text captured image file name control, I'm going to go and populate that with this very cool, handy set function that I'm doing a now function formatted in year, month, day, hour, minute, second. I'll append it onto an extension called JPEG, even though it's not quite a JPEG image yet. That's how I want to store it once it gets up into SharePoint. Then what I ended up doing with this capture is that I set this image, and this ends up being my var captured image control. It's an image control inside PowerApps. So we have the live camera image continually updating and streaming, but you can't upload that into SharePoint. What you can do is momentarily capture an image, like you're clicking on a shutter, store that momentary piece of data, that photo property at that moment, into an image, and then it's the image that is actually getting uploaded. How does that happen? By clicking on the upload button, we see that what I'm really doing is executing a Microsoft flow. I'm invoking the Microsoft flow convert and upload to pull images. So this is what it's actually going to do. It's going to do it's going to take that workflow as an object, execute the run method, and this is how it works in PowerApps, and then it's going to pass in two particular parameters, the actual file name that it requires and the actual captured image. What's going to happen when you go into this then is that that image becomes a base, that image information is base 64 encoded. It's not a real JPEG image, so we have to do a little bit of processing. And at this point, we're going to segue out of PowerApps, and we're going to actually go into Microsoft Flow. So now I'm on a different tab looking at Microsoft Flow. I'll slide it way off to the right-hand side here. And if I go looking at all of the different flows that I've been building in this particular site collection, one of them is this MSF for Microsoft Flow. It's going to convert and upload images into poll images. So it's not really monitoring anything like I have up here in this other list where I'm monitoring credit applications for a created or a modified event, and I'm going to do a generic event handler. This one's really responding to a button click from a PowerApps application. So I don't really have a naming convention that says I'm monitoring a particular application, because a lot of applications can invoke this particular Microsoft flow. So I took that part off, and that's the naming convention that I've adopted. Let's go actually look inside edit mode here and see what's really happening. This is deceptively simple. This is what's cool about it. What's actually happening on the PowerApp side is that a button is being clicked that is simply calling this particular method or this particular Microsoft flow. The first thing that you're actually going to do in the Microsoft flow is take the incoming information that was coming from the trigger body itself, which is that create file variable, and that create file content variable, which is this base 64 encoded information. And what you're really going to do is actually execute the data URI to binary method on it. What this does when you go looking for that particular function, data URI to binary, if you took the word URI out and simply put in base 64 encoded, or you just said you're taking browser-based information and converting it into binary information that actually is a JPEG file, that's what this function is actually doing. So it's taking the contents of what came up from the Power App, passing it from a URI into binary information, hexadecimal information that's actually in the JPEG format, and then allows you to actually create a file inside SharePoint that in the site collection, or in the root website of the site collection, in this list, this picture library called PowerApps, we're actually going to populate the file name field with create file name, which is just the value that got passed in from the Power App, but the file content is going to be the output of this particular compose function. So the raw data came from the camera without any massaging, got uploaded into Microsoft Flow. Microsoft Flow transformed it into binary data and is actually writing it into SharePoint. So it's really going into what? A SQL database of some kind, but it's being converted into hexadecimal information, and it's getting a file name with a JPEG extension, so that in the end, it's now a legitimate JPEG encoded image as opposed to a base 64 piece of encoded information that came directly out of the camera. And that is what's required to actually be able to grab a piece of image data that's coming from your camera and transform it and upload it at the same time into SharePoint. So we'll do it one more time just for practice. That here I am looking. I'll give you a thumbs up again. I'm going to click on this and click capture. There's my new image. So that now I've captured that live image to a single static image that's really base64 encoded. Then what I do, and I've actually calculated on the fly some kind of a unique file name that's going to go with it. When I click on upload, what upload is actually going to do, and again, we see the little movement over here telling me that something just happened. What actually happened was that if I go into the execution of this particular workflow, we'll see that it succeeded 11 seconds ago, but we can step through it all. This is one of the coolest things about PowerApps, is the ability to step through not only successful executions, but even failed ones. We see that the compose came in, it got its inputs and outputs, but mostly what happened was it did it created it took all of the information it needed to create a file and grabbed all of that information and passed it in as a call. And we see in here, well, it's actually hiding the actual content itself, but it got turned into a JPEG image. And if we go back inside that site collection, there's that last image that we popped in. So if we were to repeat what we just covered, what you're really doing inside SharePoint is, or inside PowerApps rather, is actually creating a camera control, creating an image control, creating a couple of buttons. The capture button is actually going to capture a live photo feed and store it momentarily as a static image. The upload button is then going to take the static image, upload it, pass it up into a Microsoft Flow that's going to capture it, but transform it using the data URI data to binary function that transforms it actually into a JPEG encoded image, and then the create file item, the create file action inside PowerApps, inside Microsoft Flow, sorry, is what's actually going to create this record inside the picture library that is a JPEG file with that new JPEG content and with the file name. And that's something that you can add to your skill set going forward, the ability to be able to access a camera, whether it's on an iPhone, whether you're seeing me running it right now on a web camera on my laptop. It doesn't, the Power App doesn't know the difference. It works equally well. And what we'll see in future releases is that I'll go and show how we can access the latitude and the longitude here as well, so that we'll be able to attach that geo-encoded data as well, leveraging still more functionality that's built inside PowerApps. Does anybody have any other questions on that? Any questions or comments?
A quick comment on that.
Sure.
So have you guys noticed that he never anywhere put any kind of authentication or security type code, that the thing that used to basically stymie every SharePoint developer
Good
and
point.
basically had to make you pay lots of money for a SharePoint developer to actually do? There was none of that. How did he do it? How did SharePoint let you do such a beastly thing, like put your picture up on a list?
Yeah, at no time did my hands leave my wrists. It was all legitimate, and the authentication was actually built right into Office 365. What else did you want to add to that?
Basically, that's the concept is like he had access to the site. If he didn't have access to the site, then it would not have let him do that, basically. Right? It's like this is the thing about PowerApps. The idea is like when you make something, you're relying on the access of the user you're giving it to. So if you built this and you're able to like add pictures to this list, and you let someone else use it and they get mad, like, oh, I can't use it. Well, you didn't give them access to the list. Well, that's probably the problem. So keep that in mind, that unlike other traditional apps where you explicitly give permissions to folks, you have to remember that that's not happening here. That's usually happening somewhere else.
Good point. Good, well taken, or excellent point. I see we've only got a couple of minutes left, and I've got one last slide that I'm going to throw up that Craig had prepared. We just covered some of the questions. Per usual, we're just getting started, guys, and kind of polishing off of all our presentation skills, etc. Next meeting is going to be April 4th, 5:30 p.m. Craig is aiming at that being a live session downtown that will also be virtually simulcast. So we get the combination. Craig was quick to say that the meetup is already up to 57 members. So word's getting around and people are starting to join this group and see what's going on. You can find this group at meetup.com, Chicago Power Apps and Flow Users Group. A couple of other links there on Power Platform and LinkedIn Users Group. And that's about it. Craig, if you're on, is there any other thing that you wanted to add on today?
No, I appreciate, Mark, that you took and run this for me due to personal circumstances.
Okay.
Appreciate Mark Zerr for being, I don't know if he stayed on, but for his presentation. And Mark, if you want to give a shameless plug for your user group, you can.
Oh yeah, the Chicagoland Sharepoint users group is going into its 3rd year. We've got several hundred members. We're actually probably the most active SharePoint users group in the entire Midwest now, with people coming in from Minneapolis, Columbus, Ohio, even as far south as St. Louis, calling in on a regular basis. Those are the 2nd Wednesday of the month. If you go to LinkedIn and you look for Chicagoland Sharepoint users group. And Craig, should we do another shameless plug about Office 365 Chicago?
That's
Why
Michael's
not?
group. I don't like to plug Michael's stuff.
I'm
just kidding.
No, we're trying to do a Tuesday, a Tuesday lunchtime half-hour session where we're making ourselves available.
Oh,
that's
totally
on
different.
in the middle of the day. Feel free to call into the Office 365 show, so to speak. We're going to be there. We'll have stuff that we're going to talk about, but mostly it's about simply making ourselves available if anybody's got a particular question right in the middle of the workday. So it's going to be Tuesdays from around 12:15 to 12:45, Craig, Central Time.
Yeah, that's what we were going to shoot for. We're still working on getting it up.
Still working on it. Watch for LinkedIn for that. We're just trying to be more responsive because we've learned in the last couple of years, once a user group takes off, people actually can't afford to wait a whole month at a time. We're trying to be more responsive by aiming at Tuesdays, a half an hour over lunchtime, live session using the same technology. Look forward to seeing you guys out there, and thanks everybody for staying on today. So thanks for attending, Dave and Jonathan and Nick and Carla. Thanks to Craig and Mark and Ralph for their participation today, and we'll see you guys next month.
Yeah. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, Ed Gallagher here. If you still got a moment, I actually do have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you show your code again?
Yeah. What part did you want to see?
Good question.
What's
The
under the
apps are the flow because they're both in 2 different places.
I believe it was in the apps.
Okay, in the PowerApps, what the PowerApps is doing, and if you take a step back, what you really see, guys, is that SharePoint, together with PowerApps, together with Microsoft Flow, really is creating an MVC format, an MVC framework for power users. You're really separating the model from the view from the controller, where I loosely refer to SharePoint as the model. PowerApps is my viewer. So there's very little logic going on inside the Power App, and instead, all the logic is actually captured inside the Microsoft flows so that they're reusable by other entities as well.
Right. I just had kind of like what I would consider to be a best practices question for you.
Feel free.
So I noticed that in that set command that you've got up there, that you're using Hungarian notation for your variable.
Yeah, it's still in flux. I can talk into and out of it. What works for you?
Well, I'm actually a fan of it. I was just wondering if you use it on a regular basis, and do you use VAR to prefix all of your variables?
Oftentimes internal. I'm like a 30-year developer, okay? That's my bread and butter. What I would have expected to use inside the guts of PowerApps and even inside Microsoft Flow is probably an underscore at the very beginning. And what I've learned the hard way is that a couple of these interpreters absolutely do not like the underscore. You get mixed, weird behavior. So I was forced to take a step back and say, okay, before we were using underscores as the prefix to denote truly internalized variables as opposed to ones that are exposed outside of the boundary of a class, what were we doing? Back to just calling it var. I almost was borderline about to call this int for internal. Then you take a step back and say, oh, okay, I just made an integer, and that's not a good idea.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm finding out that var works good because what we're really using here are these internal variables that are these internal objects that are being created inside the scope of the Power App itself. So I think it's important to actually call out that you're actually doing that, hence the VAR.
Right, good. And by the way, I was downtown at the Microsoft Tech Summit today.
Yeah.
And I did as much as I could to spread the word about this. So short notice for people that were down there to get hooked
thanks
into
a
this.
lot.
But hopefully they will latch in. So.
All right, thanks a lot, Ed. I really appreciate that. So does Craig.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Craig, are you still there?
Looks like he
I think
signed
he-
off, and I see him gone mute.
Bye bye. Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And
I'm still here. Sorry, I just put it on mute.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Non-user group question. You guys still taking speakers for the event, the Saturday event in May or April, the Sharepoint Saturday?
May 4th.
Yeah.
Technically speakers closed, but if people I know want to speak, I'd let them.
Oh, all right. So I finally made sure that I actually had that day free. So I'll shoot you a note. Okay.
Yeah, if you just want to shoot me a note, and do you want to do a plug for the? I already mentioned it once, but if you want to do a plug for the Toastmasters group.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. If you look at my user ID up on the Meetup website, you'll see that I'm a member of the Microsoft Midwest Toastmasters Club. In fact, I'm the president of the club, and we deal with public speaking, and whether it's presentation work or speaking in front of a crowd or just sales presentations to a customer. And it's a Microsoft focused group. So it's kind of a networking opportunity also.
Sure.
And we meet downtown. Actually, we meet downtown tomorrow at noon at the Aon building. But you can get to our schedule on the Meetup website just by looking at the list of user groups that I belong to.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Ed.
There's also a virtual component to it, isn't there, Ed?
Yes, you can connect to it through I think we're still using Skype for that, but we'll be switching over to Teams in the not too distant future.
I can't make it tomorrow, but I'll try to make the next one.
Sure. Yeah, you got it. And we meet twice a month if you want to do it in person. First Friday of the month is out in the burbs at the Downers Grove office. Second Friday of the month is downtown.
That's the one I'll be trying for, the one down in Downers Grove.
All right, cool. And all right, thanks everybody. It was good to see this. Appreciate it.
Thanks. See you guys next month. I'm stopping the recording now.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.